Hi, this is Sheila, Conscious Conversation Central, and today I'm very pleased to bring into a conversation with me BZ Rigger. A lot of folks know BZ, and I understand, if you don't mind my saying, that I'm excited actually that I got to be the first one to know that you spoke with Randy just a little bit ago. And I'm sure you're going to be putting that out soon, aren't you?
Well, I wasn't actually recorded one. It was just 2 phone calls for us. I was giving him, I can tell you a little bit about it if you want to. But
sure. That'd be lovely if you don't mind.
Yeah. It was, as a lot of our calls are, a lot of bust your gut laughing. He's laughing, nice, deep, rumbly laugh. And part of what we were talking about today was he likes to get a news update. So sometimes he's asked people about news and they don't quite understand what he's talking about. And he doesn't want someone to say, well, there's a hurricane or this. He wants to know signals and the dots. So we did a roundup of the dot connecting. And I mentioned to him about a couple of the posts that have recently gone up on the IUV. One about Trump's statement that the JFK files will all be released coming on October 26th. And I relayed to him to the evening with a press pool at the White House for the comment where there was the calm before the storm. So I relayed that to him, and then I relayed the one of the other posts I put up, which is about the 5 former presidents gathering together because their hearts are so large to raise funds for the hurricane-ravaged areas. And my little editorial comment that I put there, which I don't put very often, but my whole sense is that the IUV it's a collection and a portal for people to flow through, and they are the expert. They are the best expert for themselves, and so I don't want to interfere with how the information comes or lands, but occasionally I do write a comment. Anyway, so we talked about those, and I was trying to remember what the biggest laugh was. We were talking about McGrath, his elbow counsel, and I mentioned to Randy that he should, just because there's been a lot of comments back and forth about it. I published it a long time ago, but the CRIS, which is the Court Registry Investment System, CRIS. So I said if he could remember that he should ask McGrath to go to the IUV and download it and bring it to Randy, but he might find it interesting himself. And we were chuckling because Randy said, well, yeah, he spends a lot of time on the IUV. Oh, he does. He listens to the recorded conversations that I do with Heather and Randy and others. And I said, well, yeah, the audio is probably better because I clean up the background noise. So it's easier than all our calls are recorded anyway. So, right. And then we were laughing because most of the discovery that was done by the prosecution for their case, they have to hand, as in all purported court cases, they have to hand over discovery to the purported defendant. Anyway, so McGrath was going over it and saying to Randy, well, what is the IUV and what does it mean? Anyway, so that's why he spends a lot of time there, because 3/4 of the 200 and some odd pages is all from the IUV. So.
Wow, I didn't know that, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, we thought it was. It's always a big yuck, that everybody spends all this time there, and they read the comments and they paw through everything.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it's the IUV is a joyful, welcoming, loving place for all. So
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I
enjoy it. And I'm very thankful to you for facilitating that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm very glad that we're getting to talk, just you and I, for a moment, because I also wanted to thank you very much for the CCRTC because I have to say those calls did a lot for me as well.
Good.
And my channel trailer says it all, that this channel has always been about what interests me and will help me facilitate my growth. I am interested in things. I wanted to have conversations about things that I was interested in. If I'm going to do this for fun, I might as well do something that I would like to do.
Right.
And if anyone gets anything out of my growth or, my flaws or whatever, as I try to view them and work through them, then, so much the better, but I'm not, I don't go out and I'm not promoting stuff. You know what I mean? I feel like if someone's magnetically drawn, and I've been very magnetically drawn to all of you and what this is all about. And one of the things that I'm not sure that I was clear enough in one of the other videos. I feel like all of this that's surrounding all of this and the hearings and everything else, it's so much bigger than the TDA account access or anything else. Mm-hmm. It's actually, and I think I even said it, and it was in relation to the calm before the storm remark, actually, because of the other thing that I read on Facebook, or somebody somewhere had reported something about this Mega Anon character. Mm-hmm. 4chan said that there would be a drop the mic moment. And I have to say that ever since I started feeling and tuning into all of this myself, this feels like the drop the mic moment. Is so much bigger than whatever access everyone's clamoring eagerly to get. For me, I think it's like once we, and I know that, I know that everybody, all of us feel things differently, but for me, it just feels so much bigger. And I'm so excited and happy to have been a part of all of that in Knoxville, even though I wasn't even in the courtroom. I feel like I gained something huge. Some sort of alchemy took place for me personally, and I've seen it in others as well. I loved that.
And you added a lot to that alchemy.
Well,
make no mistake about it. You added a lot to that alchemy.
Well, I feel that's true. Otherwise, I wouldn't have actually dropped everything and gone. So I don't know. I'm excited about what's coming up, and I'm really interested in doing more of our CCRTC things with you. And I'd love to see this talked about more in regards to creating that, everything that has to do with that big, huge mic drop moment. Mm-hmm. Instead of concentrating on what's going to happen next as far as, access and all of that's concerned. Because I got a feeling that there's going to be some leapfrogging going on.
Right. Well, a couple of things. I was thinking about it the other day. I was having lunch with some friends, and we were talking about the big things coming up and the bigger picture. And I was sharing that when I was when I was nudged to do the CCRTCs, that I knew that they would be a great way for people to connect and flow, whatever that ended up being. And that was as much of a time and a length and a phone number was as much as of the constraint that I wanted to put on it. But I've seen from the backside of two sessions of them, we'll say, so 8 calls, 8 tables, with some new people, some who've done it twice, that it's a wonderful tool to help people, whether they're actually on and in the round table or listening after. It's a great tool to really, that they have now in their toolbox to help with the expansion and flowing into the big things that are happening. And, you know, I think that, I know that there's one person who has a very shiny, clean house because she listens to the audios while she's cleaning, because they, you know, they take her into them. But although she did say once that she had to stop because a couple times she's got to, you know, really integrate what's going on. But that really does tie into the TDDA's counts. That there's 2 Ds in there, and it depends. You're absolutely right. It is so much bigger than that. It depends, as all of this big picture, as all of this mic drop moment is, and the mic's not going to just drop. It's going to be, you know, boing, boing, boing as it goes, as it goes along the road. So, but it depends on your perspective, and your perception colors your perspective. So when you're communicating with people, whether it's in the comment section or on the street or on an audio, wherever it is, everybody has different perspectives that they hold. And on the, specifically to the TDA accounts, some people who can look at that and go, yeah, I really get the sense now it's so much bigger than that. They have a different perspective, and they have a different perception of how life is, how the construct really, how all-encompassing the false construct was. And so that colors their perception and of hearing the statement, it's bigger than that, of kind of dancing with that statement and that whole thought. Someone else who has a different perception of that. So for an example, I know there was a comment recently on the IUV that was in some part related to the TDA accounts, and it was also related to a downright annoyance and, vitriol against people who were thinking that there should be forgiveness or love or compassion for, you know, I'll paraphrase here, these cruel, horrid people who have done these things. And so again, there's another, all of everything, I think, is easily fits into this particular point of your perception and your perspective. So if you have a perspective that you're born and you go through life, and depending on your quote-unquote station in life, and you get stomped on a lot, and then you die, and that's it, then you bet that's a very, very linear, very, very harsh linear, with a lot of constraints on it, perception of how life is. So in that particular perception and the perspectives that come out from it, you bet it sucks, and it's terrible, and it's a crime, and it's horrid, and think of every adjective that you can think of and all the ways to describe it. And that perspective from that person who holds that perception is absolutely a valid perspective.
Yeah.
Then you have somebody else who has a slightly wider perception of things, has a slightly more expansive feeling into what's going on. They're going to have, they would describe it probably still linear, a little bit differently. And then you keep going. It doesn't mean that one perspective, one person who holds one perspective is any better than anyone else, because we're all beautiful creator beings, and we just have to get over the fact that we are. That's just the way it is, and we just gotta, some people can bask in it, and some people just gotta suck it up, because that's the way it is. You can have excuses, you can try to, deny it, but that's what we are. Yeah. And so we hold different perspectives on that, and that really changes how we can flow into and read, even if we don't even understand that we're reading the energies, how we do that.
Yes, because everyone does, don't they? Mm-hmm. Whether they realize it or not. Mm-hmm. And so I'll go back to me. Let's keep it on me. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, I only like to speak for myself most of the time. And so, yeah, okay. That ties in. Okay, yeah. See, I needed to hear you say that. Because you're right. We all have different perceptions of things. And rightfully so. There's no way. I mean, I've used that analogy myself lots of times. I can be sitting right next to someone and something happened, and we have completely different perceptions of it, because we are a compilation of all of the experiences right now, even paying attention to your tuition out of it, which really you can't. I'm now understanding and getting. I know, the minute that came out of my mouth, my head went, oh yeah? So apparently that's not going to be able to, and I feel like if this kind of thing is happening to me, it's starting to happen to everyone for lack of it. I mean, and eventually will probably happen to all of us.
No, it's happening to everybody right now.
And some people ignore it.
Well,
I do. I have. That's why
they try to, but it keeps coming up. None of this is happening in a vacuum.
Oh, which is why the whole thing that I was communicating to you earlier about my issue with communication.
Yeah.
And how I have this big issue that people don't communicate with me.
Yeah.
It is everywhere in my life. Everywhere.
Yes. It's neon signs going, Sheila, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, Sheila?
No, on this hand for me, it's when folks don't communicate.
That's what I'm saying. But in the not communicating, it's right. Like a neon sign flashing at you. Can you hear this flowing now, so that your perception can expand a little and widen out?
Well, I have to tell you, over the last several hours of what I've experienced and working through it, I have to say, yes, I can hear you now. And I've accepted that, and I'm good with it. Yeah. Just so y'all know. So I know. That's really what it is.
And the taxi in my metaphor will drive around tomorrow and go, Sheila, want to get in the car? Come on, let's go for a ride. Come on, let's go play with this again.
I don't wanna. I really do. I would like to get the message and get it in there and get it good.
Great. And then you can just wave and say, keep going. There's somebody probably a couple blocks down who could use it.
Yeah, see a couple houses over or something, because no comprende over here.
And so just to finish up that flow that we were going on with the perspective and the perception around TDAs and something bigger, both are important. No one's saying that the TDAs and what they represent and the knowledge of them and unfettered access to them isn't a huge dot as far as information and importance. It is.
It is. No, you're right.
But when it's kind of like if you look at the diagram of the sun and the different planets in our solar system, and you have an image, an infographic that represents the actual size of scale of, say, the sun in relationship to the Earth, right? The Earth is a tiny little pencil dot, and the sun is, this big round ball. So if we were to use that as an analogy with the TDAs and what's going on and the bigger picture, right?
Right.
The TDA is a little pencil dot.
Right.
Maybe a little smaller than a pencil dot. Now, if you're standing really up close to the TDA and that's what you're focused on, that's your perspective is, it looks big, just like the Earth would look super big.
Yeah.
But when you pull back and can have a more expansive view, and not a linear view, but a quantum view, then you see it in relationship to the all. And the last point on that, I think, is really helpful to reiterate. I've said it a lot of times, but we are quantum beings who are now stepping into being quantum. And have stepped out of, we've actually left, because this amazing, beautiful planet that we live on, Gaia, has left the linear timelines. So they don't, looking at things, that's why if you look at a lot of things, you think, well, why doesn't this work anymore? This doesn't make sense anymore, even if you don't understand whatever it is that you're focused on at the moment. It's because we've left the linear time constructs.
Okay, so I know I probably look a little strange right this moment, but I have to share what's going on with me physically. I feel a sense of euphoria, and as though my entire being is expanding and almost coming out of my body at hearing your words.
Mm-hmm.
That's a first. Well, it's very similar to what happened to me on the way home from Knoxville. Mm-hmm. I was sharing with Lisa as it was happening, and I shared a little bit about it when I got home, I think on another video. But the feeling I have right now is very dizzying, if you will. And as I've never been one of those folks that has traveled out of their body or whatever, although I've been ill quite a bit in my life, and I have fainted several times. And this is a little different than that. But there's also a tingling in the body that I've never experienced like that. I had to share that because that's you phased out of linear time completely, and the 3D won't be another way to hold it, and you're phasing into 5D. You do it lots of times, you just may not notice it, but when it happens for an extended multiple seconds together, then you really notice it. Wow. Okay, now I'll be really interested to watch this video myself later, because I am telling you, this is the oddest thing I've ever felt. Whew.
But when you get used to it,
well,
that's the thing. When you get used to it, it's fun, because then you're like, okay, hey, this is where I want to be, and you can expand it because you can call in. We've talked about this on various CCRTCs, that you can call in the different internal texts that you have, or you can turn them on, and this is one of them, because it's removing you from the constraint bubble that you were in as a human in the linear concept, and out of that. And see, now all of a sudden I feel, because it's almost as though I can feel. See, I'm also a Reiki master, so while I haven't used it in a while, I feel as though it's very similar now. It wasn't at first, but now it's almost, it's not a warm energy. It is and it isn't. I don't know how to explain it, but I have used terminologies before that I'm running energy, but it's never made me dizzy like this before. Ooh, wow, this is very cool. Okay. Keep talking, Beezy. Tell me more.
I'm sorry. Okay, so but I mean, this really is real, folks. I did not. I mean, I I tell you, my hands. I have very little skin on my hands because of a thing I had when I was a child called eczema, and I lost a lot of layers of skin on my hands, and they are beet red right now, and you can see the I don't know, the cells look like they're dancing underneath the surface to me. Okay, so maybe I'm losing my mind, but I don't.
Well, and I can read all the colors fizzing and yeehawing under there too. So,
oh, really?
yeah, you're having a party.
Yes, my entire body is saying, yes, it's, I mean, look at the, I am not kidding you. This is wild. Okay. I'm sorry. Let's have more conversation. So yes, this is a very real sensation here. And, I will say this too, for anyone that is watching, there's one thing that I can say, and that is water, water, water. Folks, drink your water, because I got a feeling water is a very big piece to what may or may not be going on in our physical bodies, our 3D. I don't have any idea how we're going to, do all of this at all, but I got a feeling. I mean, I found the water piece. That whole story is coming up about 3 years ago, but I couldn't understand why I was so, for a little while, I was almost, okay, I'm going to tell my age here. Seinfeld used to have the soup Nazi. I have been referred to as water Nazi not that long ago. I referred to myself as the water Nazi, in fairness. But I don't know I'd be able to handle this if I didn't have all my water on board today.
Well, and that's actually a good thing that you insert that, because people who are joining in this conversation, and remember, you're quantum beings. So if someone thinks, okay, this was recorded at X time and they published it, on YouTube at X time, and now it's 3 days later and I'm watching it, this happened in the past. As soon as you turn it on and you are part of the conversation, which you are, you're a quantum being. You are actually now in the conversation. So you're in the energetic bubble that we've opened up in the conversation, which is what intentionally the CCRTCs do.
Yes, and it is, I would like to suggest that it is something that, which is, I think, why Lisa and I have felt that having these kinds of conversations, because I do have to say that I've experienced this with Lisa, but not to this degree. Okay, not to this degree. As we have conversations, and we've called it things like leveling up and running energy, but it's almost like a resonance. In my mind, I see where we start in a swirling bit of resonance back and forth as we are communicating. And sometimes it feels like we're leveling up somehow in some sort of a spiral. And I don't know.
It's a toroidal field. That's what you described it perfectly. It's a toroidal field of energy envelope that's opened up, and you're playing quantum in it.
Yes. Well, you and I must be playing quantum because it's still going on.
Well, we probably, my guess is we'll play quantum till we close the thing, although you may find it doesn't go away.
Well, it actually, I will be honest with you. I think it started building just before we came on, because Lisa and I had a little experience right before we began, right before you and I began. As we were waiting for you, my sister arrived, as you got to meet my sister. And as my sister arrived, well, right before my sister even arrived, Lisa felt driven and the need and the want to heat up some homemade soup that she'd made and brought over. Neither one of us were hungry. Her husband isn't here. She didn't know why. She just decided she was going to heat the soup up and follow spirit because she felt led. When my sister came up, she said, Sheila, Teresa's going to be hungry. Watch, because we're trying to play in this field now. And yes, a little bit helped me, to be honest, trust myself. And I think maybe even to a degree, she's trying to help me trust myself because she's trusting herself by the fact that she went and put soup on.
Right.
But the minute my sister arrived, she knew why she felt to put the soup on. She said, I think your sister's going to be hungry because that's why we got the soup on. The first thing my sister said when she got in the house, as she took a tray of sushi out of her bag, I'm starving. So yeah, this is so cool. And yeah, so it was at that, it was like a resonance was starting at that point for me even. And I know it was for Lisa because she was running energy, as we used to call it. So, or we do. I really I did not even think about it in terms of going quantum. But the minute you said it, it feels proper. I don't know. See, I don't understand all of that. And sometimes I get too in my head about things.
Right. Well, that's the ticket. You don't need to understand it because you already know it.
Apparently. It's just not been in this experience yet.
Well, you just don't think it to death. If you understand it, a lot of times you're thinking it to death and just feel into it. And then you have your, ask your heart because it knows what's going on. That's part of your eye tech. I was having a conversation the other day with a good friend, and we were talking about, it was at work and she was doing something that had to do with the work related, and we were talking about, the eye tech coming on or changing and how's that going to work and what's it going to look like. And Heather and I were in the conversation, Heather and I were talking about how all the old things will go down. So not only the constructs, but the actual things like the computers and cell phones and all that kind of stuff will go down. And will go down by design from source. Why? Because those are crutches and a mask for your eye tech. So I pointed at her and I said, and I put my hand on her shoulder and I said, this is your iPhone, to use a technological device that you have, I said, your body is that eye tech piece. And for an example, the cell phones, iPhones is something that's a linear representation of our eye tech, which can be a good thing because it helps us to understand that connecting easily in touch, a lot of people, even if they aren't, all that aware or receptive to quantum flow or anything, they can start to say, oh, well, I knew someone-so was calling me, right? Because they're starting to tune into it. The trouble with, and it's not just the brand, the iPhone, but the trouble with those kinds of phones is they also have things intentionally built into them which negate your eye tech. And that's on purpose. So you're then relying on a device. It's external to you. You're looking outside. I need my iPhone, quote unquote, to call someone or do something or tune into something, right?
Right.
No, you don't. But instead of a natural bridge, and it's all back in engineered technology, and it's all back and engineered from the true beings that knew that it was internal tech. Just like if you think about computers that are on different starships and in different places, those are sentient beings. and they actually co-create with the person who's sitting down to use the computer. They're working with the computer. They're co-creating with the computer. Same thing with the ships. They're sentient beings. And there's a level there. So they're created molecule by molecule. That's why there are no seams. There's no rivets. There's none of those kind of things. There are in the back engineered ones. And you can tell if you're looking at video or footage, if you're seeing seams and you're seeing
rivets and bolts and
any kind of anything that's not just seamless. I mean, your skin doesn't have rivets and bolts in it, right? so that's a good clue.
Yeah, not now, but yes.
Yeah. So the eye tech is, you know, is one of those things that's already coming online for lots of people. And, well, people could say, well, no, it's not. Well, it is, simply because you don't live in a vacuum, and the energies are such, and the expansion is such, and with the guy up-leveling to higher frequency vibrations and densities, that it is happening. It's just a question of noticing is the first place. Noticing is the most important thing that you can do for turning on your DNA, doing anything. It's just noticing.
Right.
Because you're the expert. So if you tune in to you and just notice, you're not doing anything, you're not thinking about anything, you're just noticing. Simply noticing. Anyways, you'll start to feel this. And once you get used to it, you will understand that a lot of this eye tech you've been using for a very long time, you just weren't doing it consciously.
Right.
It's kind of, you know, and it'll be different for different people what parts they're using, but it's just the way you do things. It's just the way you move through the world. So for you to try to take a step back and describe how that works, it's hard to do because it just is for you. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's really good at doing something and someone says, well, how do you do that? And I think, you know, a very common phrase is, well, I don't really know, because it's so innate to them,
right,
so natural for them to do, that they have to actually kind of back out of it step by step by step to almost write a recipe or a description. And that takes a lot of work, whereas just doing whatever it is that they're doing is no big deal because they've always done it. Does that make sense?
No, yes, it made perfect sense. I have said for the last year, I felt anyway, that yes, the technology that, you know, we've all been so comfortable with was going away.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt for the same reason that you just said. I don't know that I had the piece about, I did feel like it was a crutch, but I guess before now, I felt like because of the, because of the change in the energy, that they would begin to fail as our inner technology came online.
Well, yes, but right now with things, it'll be just turn what you said and tweak it, turn it, flip it around a little. So they'll fail so that they won't be propped up anymore, the external tech, so that your eye tech can come on.
Right.
Because some people may not look to, you know, they'll keep picking up their iPhone. Well, when it's not there and it doesn't work, and they're already asked, you can survey lots of people, and they'll tell you, yeah, I'm having glitches. The glitches are happening all over well, they're not glitches.
That's what you are so right. I mean, everybody I know. Well, and of course, you know, you have the diehards are saying, well, what you need is a new phone.
Yeah.
What you need is a new phone. Your phone is old, Mom. I did hear that one.
Right.
Well, that's okay. I don't want a new phone.
Well, I happen to have one because of work, and anyways, the short part to that is it's a brand new iPhone, and it's having glitches just like everybody else's there are phones that are too old. So
well, see, now that's that. I wondered that myself, because most of the folks I know have older phones.
No, this is
I mean, I never had an iPhone until just 3 years ago.
Yeah. This is a month and a half old, and I didn't want to give up the other one, but I didn't have a choice because it broke. And anyway, so it's work related. So it's a month and a half old, and it's having glitches like everybody else's phones. Wow. And they're not glitches.
Well, yeah. Well, I didn't know, but I suspected that would be the case. So.
In fact, that's how this person and I got started on that conversation. I mentioned, if you have, because she's a veterinarian, if you have data in there that you want to get a hold of when your phone goes down, you should write a paper copy of it.
Yeah.
She looked at me, and so I went through this whole thing, and I said, and there won't be, at 10 o'clock tomorrow, your phone will stop working. It just will. So, and just choose. I mean, you can still, you don't need that, but that helps your linear brain. When your linear brain freaks out, you can just look at your piece of paper and go, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because in this day and time, me personally, unless it's a number that I have dialed a bit, I don't remember a number.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. No, I feel like that's coming too. One of the, Sarah actually, in the Conscious Conversation Central Facebook page, posted a lovely article today about biophotons and how scientists now are discovering that our brains have light in them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that light is quantum. And they were talking about how many billions of photons of light the human brain can put off. And that just speaks to, especially when you think about the quantum experiments and how spooky action at a distance works. Well, I don't know. Sounds like it's right there. Wow. Okay.
And whatever quantifier they put on the amount of photons and light it's actually it's inaccurate because they don't have the right tools to measure. They're quite accurate, but even if it was accurate, and even if that article and the study was, say, done 6 months ago, it's not accurate anymore because the quantum jumps that keep happening that's what expansion is.
Yes.
That's what the shifting and changing is. That's what holding more light comes in, more codes coming down in is what that's all about. That's another way. Right. It's where you can look at something or experience something that on a Monday you wouldn't have even noticed, wouldn't have made any sense to you on a Tuesday because of the quantum jumps that you're making. And this, I'm talking specifically related to something that's quote unquote a conspiracy type theory.
Right.
So on that Tuesday, you can look at it and you don't think about it, you feel into it, and all of a sudden it's like a picture was always there and you never saw it.
Right.
And now so Monday you couldn't see the picture. On Tuesday, you see it. It's highlighted, the contrast and all of that definition of a really beautifully done photograph or something really shows you all the detail and the richness and the color and all that vibrancy is there. And you couldn't see it on Monday, but you can see it on Tuesday.
Right.
And the reason is because your light encoding into your body is shifting and changing, and you probably had an experience. It could have just been a small one with somebody else who was a transmitter that you came into contact with sometime between Monday and Tuesday. So they could have said something to you. You could have actually interacted, or all you have to do is come into the field. We're all transmitters.
Right.
So if you come into someone's field, I mean, that's what was happening just to tie it back to the TDDAs and the courtroom and all that kind of stuff. That's what was happening in the courthouse and the whole courthouse area, where you were at the coffee shop and all that kind of stuff. That was a transmission big time.
Oh, okay. this just in. Okay, that's why I felt led to sit and stay outside where I was.
Because you're transmitting.
Because I could not figure out for the life of me. I took that trip all the way over there. And then and we never needed not one thing out of that bag that I was sitting there with the bag. Because that was the excuse I gave myself. Was we were going to sit up, we were going to take turns, and I volunteered to be first. This was the excuse I came up with as to why but I felt led to be outside. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. Wow.
There's no coincidences.
No, there sure is not. Wow. Wow, there's a lot happening for me with this starting busy. I am not gonna sugarcoat that. This is so awesome. I'm sorry. It's not supposed to be about me. Oh my word. Okay. You know, I have heard folks talk about, you know, things like this and use the terminology orgasmic. And now I understand.
You're playing in the energies, baby. It's orgasmic and fantastic.
Yes, it is. And I invite everybody to do the same thing as soon as possible. Oh, wow. This is quite fantastic. Okay. Wow. I think I just got divine timing. That was for Lisa, because I know she's sitting in the other room. I don't know if she can hear me or not. Oh, my word. Okay. Oh, my goodness. I cannot thank you enough for this evening. I think we're going to have to go in. Mostly because I don't know what else to say. I don't necessarily mean we have to hang up, but I don't know what else. This is the most fantastic thing. I almost feel sparks coming out the top of my.
Well, they kind of are.
Oh, wow. Okay. I look forward to many more expansion. I've been on the calls with other folks, you know, as you know, I was on 2 of the CCRTC calls, and maybe it's because of the alchemy that took place in Knoxville, because our other calls happened prior to that. I mean, this is taking my breath away. So maybe it was that alchemy that has changed this, but I look forward to many more expansive conversations like this. Wow. Okay. This is a state that I recommend. I'd like to stay here, please.
Mm-hmm. You can.
Wow.
You choose. It's the time of choosing, Sheila. Just like the CCRTC talked about the last round. It's the time of choosing. And you choose.
This is very, 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 very cool.
So it's another great example of the big picture and how,
yes,
how the TDDAs are, yes, important, but they're just a small part of the big picture.
Yes.
Because this a direct quote from Heather in the last conversation that she and I did, who needs an Eternal Essence card when you can manifest anything you want just by thinking about it?
Well, yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you this for a moment, just to bring it into a tad of linear.
Okay.
If you had your TDDA account and you had all those commas and zeros, could you buy a feeling that you're experiencing right now?
No.
Right.
No. No, not to my knowledge.
Right.
No.
Okay. That's why I asked that, because a lot of people think, well, if I have a TDA account, and I'll try not to laugh, I can pay off my bills. And the only reason I'll say try not to laugh is because they weren't bills to begin with, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole we won't go down. Or because I'll be free. Yes, that's a euphemism for it. You'll can buy time. Because you have to work. So what you're really thinking you want is to feel happy and expansive and orgasmically delicious.
And excuse me, but I couldn't feel freer in this moment of now, because I'm actually feeling like I'm having a hard. That's why I know y'all can't see, but I'm holding
on to the table,
to my desk. I am holding on here because I feel like I might float off. And see, that was what was happening when I was on my way home with Lisa. We were driving through these very tall mountains, and I couldn't tell if I was expanding outward or if I was being filled up, and it didn't matter. And the same thing is going on here.
Yep.
Sometimes it feels as though I'm about to leave my body, and sometimes it feels as though it's almost as though, okay, so a long time ago, and there are folks out there, not many probably, but I used to belong to the UU. There are folks who know what that was. And we used to do a little get together afterwards, after the One People Roundtable that we called Campfire. And I created a little, I don't know, like a sigil for myself. And I realized sometime later that I actually created now what I'm feeling. What I'm feeling this moment, actually, as I'm thinking about that. I started explaining to someone one time what I felt like we were as beings. That we were like the all that is, that focused this narrow, tiny, teeny, tiny focus of itself into this one perspective. Mm-hmm. It could only see, really, that was part of the reason that Source decided to do this. This is what the story I was telling. Only see that one little perspective because I wanted something different. And as I looked over and saw that, I was like, wow, I created what I think about how I got in here. And now as I was getting ready to tell you that story, I'm like, wait a minute. As I looked deeper into my mind's eye of that sigil, I can see the rest of it, what I'm feeling right now. So that is so cool. And I'm going to use that sigil as the thumbnail for this video. Mm-hmm. That's that. Oh, wow. Thank you.
So all of you is jumping into you is what's happening right this minute.
Wow. I have a feeling there's more to come.
Yeah, there is. Remember, it's a big picture.
Oh, okay.
But it's good.
Thank you so much. I hope that you will, I really, if you're up for it, to do this again.
Sure.
And
I would love to be a fly on the wall when you and Lisa talk about this.
Oh, I don't know that it's going to be a fly on the wall kind of thing. I'm actually going to ask her if she will sit in here and let's record it. Because we've been talking about that. Mm-hmm. Because I have felt for some time now, I've actually told her, I said, you know what, if we could just have a camera follow us around, I really feel like that would be the coolest thing, because it's like, I don't know how to explain it. There is something that happens almost all the time when we're together for each other. It's the wildest thing. Anyway, Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
would love to do more of these with you and others. That this is something that I'm really focused on now. I already addressed why I was gone for a while before, but this is so much fun. Thank you so much for sharing some of your time with me.
More orgasmically fun conversations of playing in the quantum.
I am so ready for that. So ready for that. And I hope all of you are too. And BZ, stay right there for a second. Everybody, let me just say this. There will be a link to the Conscious Conversation Central Facebook page in the Show More section of this video. There will be a link to the IUV, which is the blog that BZ takes care of everything for us to keep us abreast of all of what's happening that you are made aware of in regards to the case with Heather and Randy. I also am going to be putting information in the body of this video. Somehow I'd love for everyone to keep in mind to send Randy white postcards with your love and encouraging words on them, because I feel like that's a good way of getting energy into that place. Not just for Randy, because I think Randy knows what Randy's doing. And I know he loves hearing from all of us, but I also feel like the energy that's attached to those cards as they move through the way they move through will also have that effect that BZ and I just talked about. And so I think I'm going to try to make sure that information, I do have that information as to where to send it and how to send it. I'll put that in the body of this video. There will be a subscribe button, and